African election observers and others endorsed Mnangagwa and Zanu PF's victory, whilst Western observers, mainly the Americans and Europeans, were skeptical, stopping short of rejecting the outcome, said Dumisani Mlea, the Zimbabwe Independent editor, in his editorial comment. Mr. Editor, you are wrong on both counts. SADC and AU did not endorse Mnangagwa and Zanu PF's victory. What their respective election observer teams did was confine their comments to the, I quote, peaceful campaign period, including voting day. They were very careful not to mention such glaring flaws and irregularities as the failure by ZEC to produce something as basic as a verified voter's roll. The blatant cheating in adding up the votes, the shooting of civilians on the 1st of August, which was clearly meant to cower the populace down, to stop them protesting against yet another rigged election, etc. Other election observers also noted the relative peace in this year's election compared to the want of violence of, say, 2008 elections. They, however, also reported the glaring flaws and irregularities. The Americans, Canadians, the Commonwealth, the EU, and almost every other observer said the elections were, I quote, biased, unfair, playing field was not level, and most important of all, that the process failed to meet acceptable international standards. This is just diplomatic language, for the elections were rigged, and therefore Mnangagwa and Zanu PF have no mandate to govern the country. President Mnangagwa and his Zanu PF regime are illegitimate, period. It is not for SADC and the AU or anyone else in the international community to spell this out to us that Zanu PF is illegitimate, and much less what should happen next. We must figure that one out for ourselves, admit it, and most important of all, decide what to do about it. Are we going to bury our heads in the sand, as we have always done, and pretend the elections were free, fair, and credible, and reward Zanu PF with absolute power as before? Or are we going to finally end the insanity of the last 38 years, admit the elections were rigged, and for once hold Zanu PF to account for this treasonous act? All the while, Mnangagwa and his administration have come up with austerity measures to hold the economic tailspin. However, diplomats from the West and East alike say Mnangagwa's reform agenda is all form and no beer. Continued Mr. Mlea. This is where talks come in. The involvement of former Kenyan Chief Justice, Dr. Willie Mutunga, as we have exclusively reported in this edition, is opportune. Zimbabwe needs dialogue and healing process. The form and content of the talks, as well as the ultimate objective, can always be discussed if finished. Could not agree with you more there, Nsani. The Zanu PF's economic policies and programs are indeed empty rhetoric with no substance. The regime is blundering from pillar to post, and meanwhile, the country's economic meltdown is getting worse and worse, dragging the nation closer and closer to the edge of the precipitous abyss. Yes, the country needs talks, but talks to get us out of this mess. Mnangagwa and Chamisa will never get out of this mess. They are the ones who dragged us into the mess, for Pete's sake. Lest we forget, the same ZANU PF and MDC leaders were key players in the 2008 to 2013 GNU. SADC gave them a roadmap to end Zimbabwe's case of rigged elections. All they had to do was implement the raft of democratic reforms. They failed to get even one reform implemented in 5 years. What the people of Zimbabwe need right now is the courage to confront and confound the country's demons. We need to tell Mnangagwa and his junta, step down now. They rigged the recent elections. They have no mandate to rule, and therefore they are illegitimate. The country is dying for a legitimate and accountable government. An attempt by ZANU PF thugs to hang on to power must be seen for what it is. The thugs are holding the nation to ransom. No nation on earth can tolerate that. And we must make it crystal clear to these thugs that we will not tolerate it. The only dialogue with Chamisa and his corrupt and incompetent MDC alliance friends is step aside now. The country is in this mess because they sold out big time by failing to implement the democratic reforms. They owe this nation an apology. The nation owes them nothing but contempt, and certainly not the gravy train spoils they've been hankering for these last 4 months. The challenge is for the country to appoint a team of Zimbabweans assisted by SADC, the AU, and the UN officials, who will bring some order and sanity to the nation's affairs, and most important of all, implement all the democratic reforms agreed at the onset of the 2008 GNU, and hold the country's first ever free, fair, and credible elections.